So the first thing before I get started on my talk, this is like a core piece of emotional intelligence when you know what you need. I need water, and I like to do everything big and bold. So of course, it's a unicorn sippy cup. It's not mine, but you're gonna see me, take a few sips now and then. It's just what I need, all right? So I am so grateful to be here tonight to talk to all of you about a topic that I am insanely passionate about, but also one that I am intimately familiar with, and that is my area of specialty, which is radical resilience. All right, so tonight I'm gonna share with you my personal story of resilience and how I reignited what I like to call my inner Shiro. And we all have a story, so that's what I like to call mine. And I'm also gonna share with you 2 life-threatening events that really fundamentally changed who I am as a human being. In particular, how I work, how I love, and how I live. So I am a researcher and a psychologist, which means that radical resilience is my jam. So we're gonna talk about what that is, and I'm gonna share with you why I believe that it is a superpower that we all need, okay? I'm gonna talk about the mindset that can foster radical resilience and how this is intimately connected to emotional intelligence. And lastly, I'm gonna end by providing you with some simple evidence-based strategies that you can start to implement in your daily life literally tonight that will allow you to build your resilience muscle and slowly, because it's slow, it doesn't happen overnight, slowly start to master the art of transforming pain into possibility. You ready? Let's do this. Okay. Before I dive into my story, I want all of you to just take a moment. I want you to feel into this question, and I want to ask you, what significant challenge have you had to overcome in your life? And I want you to just sit with it for a moment, the first thing that comes up. And take a deep breath if you need it, because challenges are hard. And now that you've got that challenge, this is even more important. How did you overcome it? What actions did you take in order to ensure that you're still standing or sitting here today? Here's what I found in my research and in my own experience is that it is so easy to focus on our challenge, right? To ruminate about it, to think about how much pain it's caused, how it's really screwed up our day or our life. But we forget to celebrate our strengths. We forget to celebrate what we did in order to get to where we are today. And that is what radical resilience is all about. It's my jam, and it's what keeps me up at night. Okay? So let's now talk about how I found my resilience. This is heavy. This is heavy. So these 2 experiences are intimately connected to one another by a very fine thread, and I'm gonna start to unravel them for you as well as for me, because every time I talk about it, it's an unraveling. So back in 2007, I sustained a spinal compression fracture in a car accident, and that was my T11, T12, and L1 vertebrae. And I was told that I would maybe never walk again. I was paralyzed for 2 weeks from the waist down. And here's the interesting thing about this experience. I never felt more alive. I never felt more alive. And this is a very interesting metaphor for life, because when we feel really good, right, we forget how great life is, right? It's not until we're in our mess, we're in pain, we're going through struggle, that all of a sudden we want to live. And that is the gift of pain, and that's what I realized in this moment. So, being the strong woman I was back then, I was raised by some super strong women, and they all told me, you just got to keep going. You just keep going. You do whatever you need to do. So that was my perspective. I told myself that I was not going to be paralyzed. It was not an option. So I spent 6 months in bed in a back brace. I continued my psychology degree because I didn't want to lose myself. That was my thinking. Water, emotional intelligence. There's no sponsorship for this, just so you know. And I worked really hard to get to where I am. I'm standing, that's a gift. And I'm so grateful for that. Thank you. But I forgot to do one thing, just a little thing. And what I forgot to do is I forgot to look at what was going on in here. Because I had a whole lot of PTSD going on from this experience, and I didn't look at it. So what do you think happened? In 2017, just 2 years ago, I sustained a brain injury. I fractured my whole temporal lobe on the side of my face, and all of a sudden, I was derailed. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And all of that trauma from 2007 came right back, and it literally hit me right in the face. Physically, figuratively, metaphorically, the whole thing. And in that moment, I knew that if I wanted to get my life back, I needed to do what was hard. So I started to look at my mess 10 years ago, and I started to dive into it. And I am not special. I just want everyone to know that right now. I just chose the hard decision. So I have now been on a 2-year journey of finding my way back to myself and learning and unlearning everything about who I am. And by doing that, I've rediscovered a whole other level of emotional intelligence that I didn't even know existed. Right? But this is where I went. I went to rock bottom. We've talked about rock bottom a bit tonight. For any of you that have ever been there, really dark place, really dark. And mine was ridden with a lot of anxiety and fear and loss and guilt and shame, but mostly vulnerability. And that ended up being my superpower. And the interesting thing about rock bottom is that in the research, it shows that it's the meaning that people ascribe to their low point story that ends up determining what they do with this place, right? I decided to make rock bottom the foundation upon which I rebuilt my entire life because I wanted my breakdown to be my breakthrough. And you know what the funny thing was? I was teaching women in my practice how to do this, and all of a sudden I became the client. I was like, oh, cute, we're gonna like switch roles, that's nice. Walk your talk, Ashley, walk your talk. So that's what I did. And I got really intimate with my pain. I made friends with my trauma. We hung out all the time, really got to know the deep depths of my soul, and I saw my darkness, and I was like, great, I'm ready to climb out. So in my research, what I have found is that the single factor that determines the people that stay at rock bottom and the people that decide to climb their way out towards their light is one thing, and it's the people who choose to look at the mindset that the only way out of pain is through it, right? We've all been there where we kind of like want to mask our pain because then we don't have to feel it. And we're like, oh, I'm good, it's gone, cute. And then an experience happens and all of a sudden it slaps us in the face. So the more that you push it down, the less you're gonna heal. And you've got to feel it in order to heal it. So that's what I ended up doing. Water. Emotional intelligence. Okay, so here it is. Radical resilience. This is my definition of it. You'll notice that I've put the word radical in front. There's a really important meaning to that. So I believe it's the ability to come through an adversity and create a new and improved version of yourself. Because I want you to think back to that challenge that you just thought about. Were you the same person after that challenge? Did something change? Yeah? Did your environment change? Did your relationship change? Did your identity change? Absolutely. And if you don't think it did, then you might not have done the deep enough work, and that's okay. Because this is the reality, and this is what the research shows, is that the resilient people that are able to move through adversity and come out the other side stronger are the ones that go, everything has radically shifted, and I'm gonna shift with it. I'm gonna create a new identity. So that's what it's all about. When you break it down, this is even more important, the definition of radical, arising from or going to a root or source. You gotta go to the root. There's no Band-Aid solution for pain and trauma. I've learned that, especially when it comes to your brain, right? So I went to the root. And it was from that place that I was able to reclaim my power and my life. And it's really important to notice this word. The capacity to bounce forward from life's challenges is how I view resilience. A lot of times in the research, you'll see bounce back, yeah? But it's not enough to bounce back. It's not, because you're not the same person that you are after you go through something. You need to be 2 steps ahead of the game, which means you have to be mentally and emotionally prepared for anything and everything. And that's why we really want to focus on the forward. So that the next time you experience a challenge, you give it a wink, and you're like, cute, get out of my way. Get out of my way. I have places to go, and you are not a part of my reality. You're there, but you don't define me, right? I don't know if anyone knows where I'm going with this one, but why is radical resilience so important? Because this is what life is like. Life is one big roller coaster. Can anyone feel me? I mean, maybe it's just my life. No? Okay. It is like ups and downs, highs and lows. You're screaming, you're crying. Sometimes you have anxiety. Sometimes you are extremely elated, right? You're happy, you're joy. It's like the full feels of emotion. That's what emotional intelligence is all about. You got to feel everything. And until you do that, you're kind of just like screaming your way through this whole bloody thing. Yeah? So there's 2 people in this world. Okay, so here it is. Here's Susie on the left. Susie screams her way through life, yeah? She is not the master of her emotions. She hates change. She may have just wet herself. And she's like, get me off this ride that I call life. I can't do it. Jackie is like, give me more, you know? She is enjoying the ride for the ride's sake. And that's a really important metaphor for life and about being super grateful, is finding the silver lining amidst the mess and saying, I'm gonna ride this out and do whatever it takes. And so we all have a choice. This is a mindset shift. I'm going to share with you what this mindset looks like. For those of you who aren't familiar with Carol Dweck, she's a psychologist, she's a researcher, a lot of crazy, wild, great research. I'm a researcher, I'm into it. And what she found is that she did a study that looked at the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. Fixed is, I am who I am and I'm never going to change. My abilities are innate, take it or leave it, that's me, right? And growth is all about adapting to change. I know that I'm capable of change, I'm open to it. In her research, not surprisingly, she found that people with the growth mindset were 10 times more likely to be able to master challenging tasks. And when we think of setbacks, it's so easy to fall here. You wanna know why? Because this is comfortable. This is really safe. To be fixed in one place, but we know that change is like the only constant, that's it. So you need to learn how to ride that coaster. And the way you do that is by creating a growth mindset. So, I'm gonna talk to you about some strategies that I have utilized in my own healing process that have allowed me to get to where I am today, and they're also in the research. So if you don't wanna believe me, believe science, because they never lie. Well, sometimes they do. This is the foundation of emotional intelligence. Emotional self-regulation and being able to be the master of your emotions moment to moment is your superpower. You know when you get really stressed and overwhelmed, all of a sudden you just become like a reactive mess? Has anyone ever done that? Like, it's normal, because it happens all the time. Because it's also part of the way that we are conditioned to operate, instead of being proactive. And so what I tell people all the time in my work is that if you don't become the master of your emotions will master you. And then guess what happens? You are not the CEO of your life, and everything spirals. This is everything. And there are 3 components that are really important for you to think about that really define how you feel moment to moment. That's your physiology, language, and focus. There's a reason that I teach somatic dance therapy workshops. It's a huge part of my work because your emotions are in your body. And the fastest way to change your physiology is to change your emotional state. The two go hand in hand. So I'm always telling people that if you walk around like life sucks, that's exactly how you're gonna feel, yeah? You've gotta walk into every situation with like your head back, your shoulders, you have to be proud and brave, even if you're scared. And focus and language are intimately connected. So what do I mean by that? The universe is listening to every single thing you're saying. Just so you know, it's right here. So what you think you attract, if you're saying, I can't do this, I'm gonna fail, I suck, guess what? The universe is gonna give you a whole lot of sucky stuff. And it's the same around focus. What you focus on, you feel. So resilient people, they have something called an optimistic explanatory style. They're those annoyingly positive, Pam, you always have, I have one of those friends, I can't stand her. Say everything is positive. Life is great. And what I mean by optimistic explanatory is that they're always looking for the silver lining. That's where they see the positive. It doesn't mean that they don't think the situation sucks, but they're always finding opportunities to transform the situation into something good. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Hack your failures. Who hacks their health? Yeah, anyone? Yeah, you get it, right? You've got to do the same thing with your failures. This is where a lot of people end up getting stuck. You fail, you think you're not good enough, and then you give up. And resilience is all about not giving up. It's about going again and again and again, no matter how many times you fail and fall on your butt. You keep going. So you need to start keeping a track record of your failures. I literally tell my clients to write down all your failures, and they're like, you're not helping. I'm like, no, I am, because you're not gonna do that again. You're not gonna do that. We're gonna make sure that you're bouncing forward from every single failure. So keep a track record of what isn't working so you know how to pivot. Pivoting is when you're going in a direction and all of a sudden something's not working, and you know what you do? You listen to your gut. You know your gut? It's like intimately connected to EQ, and you go, this isn't working, time to pivot. Successful people pivot, and in doing so, they view failure as a first attempt in learning every single time. And as a result of that, they transform challenges into opportunities for growth. This is the number one reason why I'm standing here. This. Because I have a tribe of people in my life that picked me up off the floor many, many times when I didn't want to go on. And they said, this too shall pass. This sucks, but we're gonna get through this together, and we're gonna cry, and we're gonna dance, and we're gonna move together through the mess. And research shows that if you have a supportive network in your corner, no matter what you're going through, this is gonna help your well-being tenfold. So reach out for support and find your people, and love them just as hard as they love you. Emotional intelligence, embrace your vulnerability. I know that being vulnerable is risky and scary and hard. But we know from Brené Brown that it's also the birthplace of courage, creativity, and connection. And I know from personal experience that you cannot be courageous without being vulnerable. So I want to encourage all of you to be willing to be fully seen in all your mess and embrace your authentic self, because in doing so, you pave the way for other people to do the same. And in my opinion, there's nothing more beautiful, and there is nothing that will build your mental strength more than this. Lastly, connect with your purpose. This is the thing that's gonna get you out of bed in the morning when you don't wanna get out of bed, right? Intimately connect with what makes you come alive inside, even on the days when you don't want to do anything, because I promise that it will help you to keep going. And if you don't know what your purpose is, please don't stop looking. And the interesting thing about purpose is that it's not this big grandiose thing, right? Everyone's constantly searching for it, but it's searching for you in the small things that you do every single day. So look for those things and be grateful, because it's going to help you ascribe a lot of meaning to your low point story. Water. We're almost done. I have one takeaway message, and it's this. You are all the hero of your own story. And your story matters because you matter. Period. You matter. And please share your story, because what it does is it creates a ripple effect for other people to share theirs. And it is the birthplace of connection. If you don't like how your story looks, at any given moment, you have the power to rewrite every single chapter. But don't forget about the messy ones, because they have made you into the person that you are. Your pain doesn't define you, it refines you. And that's why it has literally been the greatest gift of my life. Because by looking at my mess, I found my message. And not only did it change the way that I work, whoa, right? But it changed the way that I live and the way I love and the way I connect. And for that, that's the best gift that I could ever ask for. So, just remember in closing that courage, it does not always roar. It doesn't. Usually, it's that quiet voice at the end of the day that just says, let's try again tomorrow. So I hope that this story of radical resilience and my personal story inspires you to know that even during your darkest of days, the darkest of days, that there's always tomorrow, meaning there's a new opportunity for you to transform pain into possibility. Yeah? I would like all of you who has a glass of wine or a glass of water or anything, I want to take a moment and celebrate everybody in this room. Going back to the question I asked you at the beginning, what is the challenge that you've had to overcome? The reality is that pain is a universal human condition. We all experience it, and because of that, we're all intimately connected to one another through our struggles, as much as we are our triumphs. There's somebody in this room that has experienced something similar to you, yeah? Death of a loved one, illness, heartbreak, financial instability, we're all connected to one another. So let's take a moment and honor ourselves and celebrate everyone in the room for being the resilient person that you are, because you're here and you made it. So if you can raise your glass, does anyone have a glass? Here is to your unwavering resilience in the face of adversity. You've got this. Together we rise and together we heal. Thank you so much.